hello, and welcome to iShine Podcast. I am your host, Angela A. Love Lewis, and I'm so excited because we are doing a special edition of the podcast today because we have a very important VIP guest. So I want you guys to make sure, start tuning in. When you come on, make sure you share out the broadcast because this is something and somebody that you do not want to miss. So I want you to make sure you're tagging everybody. This is a Saturday, so I know if y'all not watching football, then you're looking for something to do, right? So make sure you get on the broadcast and share. Hey, Nadia, how are you, beautiful? Thanks for tuning in. So listen, I have none other than Francheska Fancy Felder. She is the founder and CEO of SwagHer magazine and media. And listen, she is on here because she has some amazing information to drop for us today. So without further ado, I want to, before I introduce, let you come on, Francheska, I want to say this. I was looking through, of course, your pages, looking for quotes and things. And I saw where you said, everything I do celebrates my Blackness and amplifies the voices and stories of Black business owners and the Black community, whether that be through storytelling or brand building. I love that. I love what that encompasses. And I thought that was the perfect setup for you to kind of tell us not only your belief behind that, but exactly what else you do besides SwagHer magazine.
Wow, I'm so glad you pulled that quote. Well, that quote, but thank you. First, thank you for having me, Miss Ella. I'm happy to be here. And yes, I am Fancy. I am the publisher and editor in chief of SwagHer magazine, which is an empowerment and lifestyle publication. And so, with that quote, not only I think oftentimes people think that we're just the magazine. Like, yes, we do produce content. We do actually publish a magazine, but then we also offer public relations services as well. But everything that I do still involves my writing. You know, I'm a writer at heart, and then I'm also a creative at heart. And so with my creativity, that's really where my passion for public relations comes into play. So with that, between the combination of the two, I not only get to write, but I also get to do event planning. I get to be able to plan campaigns, you know, and marketing, whether that be public relations campaigns or press campaigns, or if that be marketing campaigns. You know, I just get to like really play with my creativity a lot, but everything stems back to just celebrating our Blackness because I think that that is so beautiful. You know, I love being a Black person. I embrace that. I feel like I could have been born a male, you know, but I couldn't have been born any other race. You know, this is what I am. So I'm just very passionate about it. And I'm just passionate about Black people because I feel like we overcome, you know, we're still making history right now, even though a lot of times people say it's a shame that we're still seeing the first Black this or the first Black that. But at the same time, it's really, you know, we're witnessing history being made. And I'm so happy that I get to be able to document so much of that, you know, as well as just telling other Black stories that often go untold or just sharing information that oftentimes I think we think everything is common sense, you know, but common sense really isn't so common. So oftentimes what I'm trying to do with our audience is continue to educate them, you know, because we think that, oh, everybody knows, you know, you should do A, B, and C, but oftentimes people don't know that. So whenever I'm trying to tell a story, I'm trying to find some type of content, I'm trying to make certain that either it's going to make people feel good about themselves and about who they are, or either it's going to be something that's going to be able to educate them so that they can go further in life.
And I love that. That's positive, inspiring, empowering. And that's exactly what SwagHer magazine is. It's an empowerment and lifestyle publication. So you get the best of both worlds. You get to get empowered, but you also get to experience the lifestyle of people who are out here making a difference, who are showing up, you know, in their respective jobs or, you know, whatever they're doing to enhance the community. And I think it's beautiful. And I love what you said about, regardless of whether I was born male or female, I still want to be Black. And I love that because I think sometimes we don't recognize or realize, you know, just embracing who we are as a people. So for you to be able to showcase that is straight amazing. So Jarmel has said greetings, ladies, as well as Kelly A. Bowen. So thank you, Kelly. We are broadcasting on the CEO District platform as well. So hello to you, ma'am. So Francheska, let me ask you this. SwagHer, baby, the name itself, How did you come up with that? Because it just exudes wanted to just come through, baby. Like, yes, how you show up. I love it.
You know, it's funny you kind of describe it that way, but actually the name came to me. Well, I've had the magazine 11 years now. So I started in 2010.
Mm-hmm,
And during that time, I remember watching this BET Awards show. And
mm-hmm,
this is when Swag Surfing was out. I don't know if you remember that song, but okay, so everybody came out. And you remember they were like dancing to the song as they came
mm-hmm.
out. And it was just like a whole vibe, you know? And
Right.
that's kind of like what I've been trying to do with the magazine. Everything we do is kind of a vibe. You know, we try to keep it whereas it's something that is again entertaining but also educational, just something that's uplifting. But also it made me think, you know, like, well, what's your swagger? You know, how do you carry yourselves? And that's kind of like where I look at the storytelling of it all. And
Mm-hmm,
initially it was spelled with two G's, but
mm-hmm,
when we did the first cover, the graphic designer was like, SwagHer is too masculine, you know, because initially we
mm-hmm.
started out as a Black women's magazine, and he was like, that sounds too masculine. So we decided to make it the her, and from there it just kind of, you know, took off. But it still does mean, you know, the GGER overall.
Right, got you. So when you all are, doing the publications, you mentioned earlier that although people think about the magazine and the media portion, they don't really think about, the other things that you do, which I believe you said a boutique PR
Mm-hmm.
agency,
Public
right?
relations.
And that
Uh-huh.
you're a public relations and about having a publicist. So for a lot of people, as you're showing up in your business, why can you tell people what actually a publicist does and why it's important for you to have that extra layer in your business plan?
And I'm so glad you asked that question, because it seems like people, I see so many people, you know, working to get to these levels and just doing all these amazing things, but they're going unnoticed, you know. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason why they're oftentimes going unnoticed is because we live in a really busy world. So, yes, it would be really great for outlets to reach out to you and say, hey, you know, I realized you just did this fundraiser and you all did such an amazing job and blah, 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 you know, but that's not going to happen too often unless you're doing something that's, you know, like on a scale of 1 to 10, you're at a 9 or a 10. But we're still doing great things, but oftentimes that can go overlooked. So with that being said, what a publicist does for you is basically take your story and craft your messaging of it, you know, make certain that it's consistent, that you're showing up not only just with the overall look of the brand, but also the communication with the brand, making certain that the tone is always the same, you know, that the
Mm-hmm.
message, if you say that you believe in this, then you need to say that you believe in this all the time. You can't say, oh, well, this happened and now all of a sudden I believe in that. You know, you can at times when the
Mm-hmm.
situations are extreme, but people look for that consistency within your brand. And then what we do from there, after we've made certain that your image is solid, then we begin to pitch you to other outlets. So not only do you come to SwagHer Magazine and get placement within SwagHer Magazine, that we're going to reach out to our other, I call them sister networks. It's not an official thing, but that's just kind of what I call them.
Mm-hmm.
And we reach out to them, and then they feature you on their platforms, you know, or we reach out to other journalists and other outlets, and they may feature you in their outlets. And the thing about PR is you never really know if you're going to get a hit or not. But the
Mm-hmm.
cool thing about the fact that we're actually offering this PR service as a media outlet itself means that we can guarantee you actual placement, because you know that you can get, really, you can get more than one placement with us, because SwagHer has so many other different outlets. You know, we have the website, we have the print magazines, we have our newsletters, we have our social media, and then on top of that, then we have our podcast, Theories and Thoughts, and then Theories and Thoughts has its own talk show, Theories and Thoughts Deep Dive. So you see, like, that's about 5 to 6 outlets right there. And I just
Mm-hmm.
totally forgot that we have our latest newsletter, The Higher South, which is almost another website within itself, but it
Mm-hmm.
is still a newsletter. And this is actually a part of Facebook's independent journalism project. So we have
Mm-hmm.
Facebook support behind us with that newsletter. So you can get all of those possible placements with us, you know, on top of the other placements that you get from the other outlets. So we're steadily pushing your brand out there so that people are you're not only doing the work, but people are actually seeing you do the work. You know, people are actually hearing about the things that you're doing. And that's the thing. Public relations is what others say about you, you know. So that
Mm-hmm.
is like, if they're saying that you're doing good things, you want people to be saying that you're doing good things, but they're not going to know that if no one's making certain that that people are reaching out actually stating that for you. You know what I mean? Which you can
Absolutely.
always, a lot of times people try to do public relations themselves. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because I've saw people pretend to be other people, because I see it from both angles, as a publisher
Right.
and as a publicist. So I've seen people pretend to be other people and try to pitch themselves. And, sometimes they may actually have a good enough story that doesn't mean that it does work well. But then oftentimes a publicist can help you with that angle, and making certain
Yeah.
that your brand that they're reaching out to actually aligns with your brand, that it's not like a miscommunication in messaging, because like I said, messaging is so important. So those are the things that we do.
So I'm really glad that you're bringing these points. And for everybody who is tuning in, I need you to make sure if you can't get it right now, go back and listen to the replay of how important messaging is, consistency in your branding is. All of those things work together to get you the optimum level of exposure and visibility that you need. And so, Francheska, when you talk about, all the different layers and components, of SwagHer, it's just amazing that you guys have so many different outlets that people can tap into. Now, you spoke about the Higher South, which is, I'm assuming, the newest project for SwagHer. Is that correct? How were you
Yes.
able to position yourself with Facebook's backing?
Well, I can't go all into detail because it is kind of confidential, but we
Okay.
can say that it is part of the independent journalism project. That is something that I am allowed to say. But basically, it was a matter of pitching myself, and applying for it because they did do a call. That's common knowledge over, the internet. There was a
Right.
call placed out there, and I applied, and I just had to have a concept along with it.
And I love that, because not only does it speaks to being prepared for opportunities, being aware of
Right.
opportunities. And so again, when you're talking about branding yourself, when you're talking about, getting your marketing plans together, you've got, number one, to be aware of what you're doing, aware of where you're trying to go and how you want to represent yourself. And so for me, being a partner with SwagHer, it has been extremely profitable. It's been extremely, it's given me a lot of visibility. It's positioned me, with some great people that I have been able to build, have collaborations with. So I really appreciate the work that you all do behind the scenes to make sure that we are visible, that we are getting, connected to some good places. Because again, it is about, not only, if you can't be the best kept secret, you've got to be able to get some exposure. And a lot of times people just think like, oh yeah, I'm the best. But if nobody knows about you, it doesn't really help, for you to be able to make that statement.
Right.
So I want to kind of let's talk about theories and thoughts, the podcast, and then the deep dive. So I know that you are a co-host, right, on this one, and co-producer. Okay. So tell us
Mhm.
about the premise behind theories and thoughts.
Well, Anya and I, that's my co-host, Anya T.M. Davis. She and I would have these deep conversations, we would be like, other
Mhm.
people should be talking about this. So we wanted to do other women have these conversations, or like it would be
Mhm.
so cool if we could, open the conversations to more people. And so that was basically Anya calls them kitchen table talk conversations. But that was
Mhm.
basically like the premise for what we decided to do as far as the podcast. But then it has kind of grown over time, just as we still continue to want to educate. We speak on a lot of taboo subjects, so
Mhm.
as I said, I really believe in trying to educate people as much as possible. So we're the ones that don't mind, addressing cervical cancer or transgender stories, the things that
Mhm.
people oftentimes wonder about but are really too afraid to ask about, but also just things that impact the Black community, those issues that we feel like, are plaguing us or that we are actually doing good with. One thing I
Mhm.
think that I'm not saying we're just where we need to be, but Black mental health is like really important to us. That's something that we discuss oftentimes. And we try to not only have those conversations with women therapists, but also with male therapists as well, so that they can
Right.
give their input. And so we try to make certain, even though it is more so, we do still target women.
Mhm.
We do still also invite males to come in and give their input. And we do have male viewers as well. So, it's kind of a mixture of both, but oftentimes a lot of the subjects are more women related. But I
Mhm.
still think the way we angle it, it can still educate a man as well.
Awesome, awesome. And so tell me again, when did you start the SwagHer media
SwagHer
publication?
magazine was SwagHer was started in 2010. And
2010.
then in Theories and Thoughts we started we made 2 years in September.
Okay, congratulations on that. So, with that being said, that's 11 years in the game. And for a lot of people, that's a long time, to really still be in the game and still be relevant. So, you've constantly evolved. And for some, maybe say even reinvented when you're talking about all the different multi layers that you've established. How important is it for people to look at their brand and continuously try to make it relevant as you are progressing through, certain number of years being in the business?
Oh, that is very important. And especially I was just telling someone the other day, like they were telling me they were kind of wondering, like, how am I going to make it as a creative? And that's something that I had to ask myself. I've shared publicly that I've experienced homelessness several times while trying to
Mhm.
publish the magazine and just pursue
Mhm.
my dreams full time. I've been doing this full
Mhm.
time now for 4 years.
Okay.
And what I realized is that you have to steadily keep creating. You
Mhm.
can't stop. It would seem so easy to quit, like, oh, we've accomplished this now. Now that's all that's needed, but that is not the case. Like, you have to keep coming up with more. You have to create the new, that's like we see with the coaches all the time. They're coming out with these new
Mhm.
planners. And you be thinking to yourself, like, what is any different from the last planner that you put out? But
Right, right.
but the thing is, like, you have to keep reinventing the wheel, so that you can continue to breathe life into your business.
Mhm.
Because the minute that you just get complacent, that's when somebody else is there. Hate to say take your place, because we like to think that there's enough for everybody, but the top is
Mhm.
still the top. You know what I mean? Like, only so many
Right,
people are going to be within the top. So yeah.
right. Absolutely. Okay, great advice there. So let's look at on the flip side. As we're talking about evolving and getting better and bringing out more things to be more relevant, for a lot of people, they get lost up in there. And when they take losses, when they get no's, when things don't work out, they tend to quit. So, how important is it, or what have you done to kind of help to learn from the losses instead of letting the losses take you out?
I was too hungry. I'm still hungry.
Come on,
As Les Brown
come
says,
on.
like, I'm just like, I'm not gonna lie, I do not like rejection.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even care for sales, if we're being honest. I just want to write and be creative and create other stuff. But
Right.
I realized, for one, that's why I have Dramail, because
Mhm.
that's kind of a weakness for me. I'm actually a marketing management major, but as far as just dealing with people and sales, I realized that I'm introverted. I'm still
Mhm.
getting comfortable with myself. I feel like it in life. That's something that I've had to deal with for years. And it was really a challenge, especially as a business owner, because the first thing people tell you is, well, you got to go out there and meet people. But that was difficult for me. And it has really taken me years. It's taken me lots of losses to kind of realize, like, hey, if you don't do this, nobody else can. This is something that only I can do. So I say that to say, I found wherever I find myself having weaknesses, if it's not something that I really feel like I can improve on by myself, then I'm going to find somebody else that is stronger than me, and I'm going to contract that
Mhm.
out to them. As far as no's themselves, oftentimes no's are good, because that
Yeah.
may not be what God has in his plans for us at that time. Maybe we're not really ready. We're thinking that we're ready, but that may not always be the case. So I'm thankful for the no's that I've received. And also, those no's oftentimes leads to yes, whether
Mhm.
it be from someone else, or sometimes it might even be that same person coming back to you like, hey, I reconsidered and now I do want to do this. But that's just something that you have to deal with. Not everybody is going to want what you're selling. And the more I'm in business, the more I realize I don't want everyone to want what I'm selling. I really want
Mm.
to I would love to be able to niche down our audience a lot better, but that's something
Mhm.
that I hadn't been able to do. But if it was something I could do, I would definitely do it, so that I can
Yeah.
know for certain that we have these people here. But you can't be out here trying to target everybody.
Yeah. And that's a really great message, I think, for a lot of people, especially starting out in business. They want to serve everybody, so who is your for? All women, everybody. And in actuality, you really can't speak to everybody because you have to have somebody who's specifically listening for your voice or the way that you
Right.
do things. And so the more you niche down, the more effective you can become. So I'm glad that you put that out there. You've actually said several good things because, Francis, you like me, baby. You was out here talking, baby. So hopefully everybody is grabbing these good nuggets because you once said about homelessness, which means to me that you have to sacrifice for what you want. And it's not always pretty, it's not always fun, but at the end of the day, if you persevere, so you talk about not only sacrifice, but consistency and perseverance, because you continue to show up even when you had losses. You continue to look at those as lessons to figure out what that meant and how could you improve on it. So I think those are great lessons and nuggets that you put out there. And in addition to that, also talking about building a team, and wherever you're weak at, you find people who are strong in those areas to support you so that you can accomplish the goal. So with all of that being said, I know that you all have some phenomenal things getting ready to come up with SwagHer magazine. How about sharing some things with us?
Well, currently, we first say we had our travel books to go out earlier this month, and the travel books, trying to get it at an angle where you guys can see it. But the travel
Mhm.
books currently feature Coach Beverly Johnson, and Coach Bev has been with us for a while. I enjoy working with her, but she's a health and fitness coach. And so, what we did with these, like the travel books, are as you can see, smaller in size. I'm going to show you
Mhm.
all the other magazine as well, but they're smaller in size and also smaller in content. But because people were always asking about being on the cover of the magazine and we don't sell our front covers, we thought that this would be a good way to still be able to get those clients in and, allow us to continue to grow while also continuing to grow the brand, because we pass these out for free. We send them out to events. We send them out with all of our issues. If whenever someone orders an issue, then they also receive a free copy of
Mhm.
this. And what we ended up doing with this particular book is Coach Bev is actually in the process of writing an ebook. So we not only placed her feature about her within it, but then we also those are ads there, but we also placed her ebook, like some of it within the book itself as well.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we have these out right now, and she has some that she can also pass out, and they're also like good for when you're hosting, not hosting events, but if you're hosting events, they're good for swag bags or gift bags,
Mhm.
but also like table placement when you're out vending. Then you can have that product there, that material, I guess you say that
Mhm.
literature there that people can
Right.
pick up and take along with them. And then we just released our Second Chances issue, which features Sunshine Smith Williams, who is a wealth
Mhm.
educator, and also Sunny, just I call her Sunny, but she was well, she was the one of the founders of the Pink Panther Clique. And for those who aren't familiar with the Pink Panther Clique, it's about, I think, maybe 5 to 7 women that were formerly incarcerated. So
Mhm.
they tell their stories. They kind of build their platform about on telling their stories. And what Sunny swore to do was to make certain that her other incarcerated sisters' stories were told. So they told their stories, but then they also would tell the stories of other incarcerated women across their social media. And then she's a police reform and prison reform advocate as well. So she's been doing a lot of great things in the community, but she did really go into detail with me, about her case and her time in prison and just like how she's changed since then. And that's, let me just show y'all some more pages. I'm sorry. I didn't think about that. Oh, and then it also just so happens that Neffy, who is, I mean, she happens to be Keisha Cole's sister. A lot of us know her as that, but then she was also on the show, and then she has her own radio show as well, and then she's doing a movement called Suffering in Silence. So
Mhm.
that, well, organizing a movement. So we discussed that, but then we also have like a lot of other interesting takes on second chances. Like, is second chance destiny? Who all deserves a second chance? Like, we answered those type of questions in here. I'm really proud of how the writers came together and were able to find their own different angles. Like, I'll throw a theme out there and just be like, okay, y'all go, y'all go with it. Like, I may not necessarily know where we're gonna go, and I'll tell them, if we can't come up with something else to go with it, then at least the cover story is gonna match the theme. But they came through with their stories, and they came through in time.
Okay.
We did end up hitting some delay, but I'm really proud of how we created this issue, because we had a whole marketing plan behind it. We have been very strategic about how we laid it out, but also how we've been executing the vision of it. And so we were actually offering consignment with other locations, like, whereas they can cover the magazine there, place the magazine there. So that's one opportunity that people can, if they have a brick and mortar, that they can reach out to us and work with us with, because we have a whole package set up for them, so it benefits them as well. It's not just like, oh, we're trying to take up the space in your shop and offer you nothing in return. We do have something else that we're offering in return, and then also, of course, you get money on the back end of the consignment too. So those are the two latest magazine projects. And then, of course, I mentioned the Higher South. And then, look, did I answer your question? Because I could be just going.
Yeah, no, yes. I mean, because we're just talking about, all of the great new things that SwagHer is doing. So the Higher South, I know you said it's a newsletter. What is it actually focusing on? What is the big focus for it?
Life in the southern states. So basically, I'm looking at all the southern states, going as far as actually Maryland, because I didn't even realize Maryland was considered to be a southern state. But I was like, hey, my brother lives there, so that's going to give me an opportunity to travel there. So I'll be doing some traveling with the newsletter, like visiting businesses. Right now, though, is I've just been trying to build it up. So I've been looking for writers for that. I only want two writers. Right now I have one, and then I write a lot myself for it. But it comes out every Thursday and Saturday morning. And what we've been doing is life in the southern states, but of course it's still from a Black perspective, and it's Black lifestyle. So again, I'm just but I'm honing in, and what I've been kind of developing a pattern of is all those Black firsts that I mentioned before. I'm trying to include those that are within the South. Those are some of our features, some of those Black firsts that are within the South. Like, we have one of the few national food brand owners, Mr. Claude Booker, was featured there. I don't know if anybody heard of Soul Food Starter Kits, but I just love that idea, what he did. And so he was featured. Today, I actually had a newsletter going out about 3 Black women that started a skating ring in Charlotte. They're the first Black woman-owned skating ring in Charlotte. And then we featured, I can't remember their last names at this time, but they have the only nature preserve, the only Black owned nature preserve in the South, and then they're like the second Black owned nature reserve in the preserve in the Southeast. So just people like that, those are the stories that we're telling, but we're also gonna start doing more exclusives. I'm just kind of waiting until again, it's a work in progress, but it's actually been going really well. So I'm proud of how it's been, working out, and just trying to get that consistency there, and just getting more people to know about it, bringing that awareness to it.
Got you. And it sounds like such a positive movement, because, I love when Blacks are highlighted, and I see, let me just go and put a comment up from Valerie. She says that, praise God, Black women in business is everything. Continue to share those amazing stories. Yes, absolutely. Kelly said, this is a great information. So yes, ladies, thank you so much for sharing that. So let me ask you, with all of the things that you're doing, because although they're related, it's still multiple compartments. How do you create the balance? How do you keep your energy up? How do you keep the fresh ideas flowing?
I'm still asking myself that. What I've been doing, I'm not gonna lie, I used to be a workaholic, and then, like, about a year ago, I kind of committed to myself that I was going to stop working so hard, stop working on the weekends, and just be more present, especially for my kids. And then over the past few months, though, I've just kind of been still delegating,
Mhm.
that's one thing that I really had to learn to do. And when you're going to delegate, you still have to do the work ahead of time, like you have to look ahead. So right
Yeah.
now I've been kind of working on better looking ahead so that I can delegate even better. And that
Mhm.
allows me a little bit more time to focus on the things that are most important. Really getting my priorities together has been something that that has helped as well. I don't even want to try to do this word, but making sure I have my priorities straight, because I was about to say prioritizing. My brother was laughing at me the other day when I tried to say this. So that's why I was like, I
Tell
don't
him
even
you
feel,
nailed it. You got it right.
but making certain I have stuff in line, that helps a lot. But also just I've really been focusing on my spiritual journey more, because I feel like I, in that midst of being such a workaholic, I kind of abandoned that. And now that I'm in
Mhm.
a different place, I have a little bit more time to just really practice it. And so on the weekends, what I try to do is just make sure that I take some time to myself. I don't care about the week. The week I know I'm gonna have to make certain that I'm working consistently. Like my
Mhm.
morning start at 4, and they normally would end about 5 in the afternoon, but now I've actually began taking all these courses. So now they're starting to end a little bit later in the day, but I really believe in just self-improvement. So, and
Yes.
I believe if I can teach myself anything, that's my first thing that I'm going to do. Teach myself before I pay someone else. But then I'm willing to pay someone else, but I want to make certain that I know what they're doing as well. So those sort of
That's
things
good.
really help. And also just trying to get back into working out and like practicing yoga and meditation. I listen to positive music all
Mhm.
day. That really helps with my mindset, because oftentimes I can really go away left field, and so I have to make sure that I'm keeping myself centered. But those are the sort of things that I really do. Oh, I also journal and write out my affirmations, and I have a gratitude notebook. So
Oh,
that way I can keep track of, just all the things that we oftentimes don't even consider to be blessings, but they really are things that we should be thankful for, that we're just taking for granted, making certain that I'm being mindful of those things.
yes, awesome. I see Valerie Hunt is very impressed. She said mind, body, soul, and spirit, hashtag centered. And she also said
Yes,
spirituality is key. God is moving. Another thing she said is taking time for self is necessary so we don't burn out. Looking ahead is necessary. We must be intentional.
I love
Absolutely,
that.
absolutely. And she said, I love to journal. Come on, Valerie. What you say? I'm getting some good stuff out of Miss Fancy, honey. Yes. And let's, while I'm talking about saying fancy, I know that a lot of times when you're posting, it's hashtag fancy's thoughts. And I
Mhm.
love that because it's really branding you. How important is it for people to use hashtags that are specific in their brand recognition process?
Actually, I've been doing that so many years. It initially just kind of started as I used to be really opinionated on social media, like, and I
Mhm,
would say some
mhm.
of everything because I thought I knew everything back then. That's why I'm more quiet now, because I have grown and I'm like, hey, you don't know everything. Be more mindful of what you say. But and so I would hashtag just so people know, like, I don't really care what you got to say about this. These are
Mhm,
my thoughts here, and this is
mhm,
my space. But also I began to realize that I was leaving a digital footprint. So if you search that hashtag, like, I don't even know how many posts might actually show up. But I do think that it is important because a lot of people, they make themselves the queen of this or the coach of that,
mhm,
or
mhm.
and they're steadily branding themselves. And we actually, when we're reading those things, we take that in and we start thinking, hey, like, it's a subliminal thing, like, hey, this is the so and
Mhm.
so, so and so. So I do think it is really good when people do brand themselves with hashtags. And although initially that wasn't so much my idea, but
Mhm.
Fancy Sauce is actually the name of my main business, and everything else is just a subsidiary under Fancy Sauce.
Got you. Valerie says she loves it. Fancy is in the house. Hashtag fancy is fancy. Yes, I love it. I love it. And I'm great. Yes, Valerie, great information. I love that you say, a digital footprint, and we are in a digital space. And coming from COVID, it gave people so many more opportunities to really transition. A lot of people
Mhm.
are leaving jobs and they're stepping into their own business ventures. They're stepping into their own space. You've seen more people pop up with podcasts and, virtual shows, virtual events. So with COVID, how did it impact you personally or professionally?
Whew, I was terrified at first. But the thing about COVID, I would say I was so scared because I had just left an abusive relationship and moved into a new house with my kids. And then it wasn't even 3 weeks later that the schools were being shut down, you know. And
Mhm.
at that time, of course, like I said, I've been working for myself for the past 4 years. So that was a big transformation already for me. And then transition for me. And then COVID hit, and I was just like, Lord, I don't know what to do because, we had clients, but clients got to have jobs and stuff too, so it still was going to be an impact somewhere. But what I looked at is that, we were patient with our clients, but at the same time, I just began to like really come into my own. I began helping someone else with their business. And I think it was kind of like the things that they were saying, just the feedback that they gave me. It made me realize like so many more skills and talents that I hadn't even tapped into that I had, and I was just like,
Yeah.
I've been kind of sleeping on myself. So COVID really woke me up for the most part. And then it just kind of gave me a whole new drive because, we realized we may never go back to how we used to be, and we don't know really what to expect in the future. People don't know exactly how COVID has, changed the trajectory of life, of daily life for
Mhm.
us. So, with that being said, I'd much rather be more prepared and also more self-reliant, as
Yeah.
opposed to, because before, we were kind of more dependent on other people, and then you begin to realize like you're gonna have to get through this yourself. The best way,
Mhm.
how making the best
Right.
decisions at the right time for you. So.
That is amazing. And I'm going to go back. I'm going to read Valerie's comment, and then I'm going to ask you a question because it'll tie into what she's saying. She said, Fancy and I are connected. Fancy and I are going to connect. We share the same story in many ways. Love it. She said, God has so much for you, Fancy. Your voice and story is needed for the masses in this season. And so, you mentioned as you were talking about COVID leaving an abusive relationship. And so this is the month that people recognize domestic violence. What would you share? What advice could you give to somebody who's currently dealing with a situation like that?
That's always a tricky one because I interviewed a domestic violence advocate a few years ago, and normally I would just be like, "Oh, get out," And she
Mm-hmm.
told me that's like the worst thing that you can tell someone,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't know all of their circumstances, and
Right.
that may be the safest thing for them at that time. And so I think with that being said, a part of me almost wants to say, hold on, because really that's how I had to think myself throughout that time. And while I have been, and I hate to be like, oh, I don't just go from one domestic violence situation to the next, but years ago I had been in a domestic violence relationship. So I knew then, that was not something I would endure. This
Mm-hmm.
time, however, like due to income circumstances, and actually it was because it was a part of financial abuse that was taking part there. And then the abuse wasn't so much with me as it was just like he actually, just being honest, he actually got into a fight with my son. Now my son is
Gotcha.
grown, so in
Mhm.
some ways, it was kind of different, but it was just like it was a lot of emotional abuse, a lot of verbal abuse. And so with all of that, I just kind of I still had to map out my escape. It wasn't just an immediate thing, it
Right.
took time. Um, but I do think if there's anything you can do that is immediate, then definitely do it, but for some of us, it's just not that easy.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that. Valerie said, great advice. Praise God. Kelly said, great interview. Thank you, ladies. I appreciate you sharing that and sharing it from your perspective and sharing that, sometimes it may be you as the victim, but then again, if you have children, it impacts them as well. So really having to, people are so quick to give out advice, like you say, first thing is, yeah, just leave. But you have to, depend on the situation, really take your time to plan things out because you're already with a volatile person, and so you
Mhm.
don't know, or you may know what they're going to do, but to the certain extent, I lost a friend who probably has heard her boyfriend at the time tell her all the time, I'll kill you before I let you leave me or whatever. And it's happened so much that you just really kind of brush it off and think, you're not going to do anything until the time that they do. And so you really do have to, really take the time to prepare. And it's with life, like with anything else, to be intentional, but to be strategic so that your moves are your best moves that's going to benefit you in the long run. So yes, and Valerie said, God will give strategic blueprints for our getaway. That's good. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing that. So Fancy, let's say this, because I know that with everything that you do, with all of the impact that you're making, with Fancy's thoughts being out here, with you being opinionated and sharing, how you feel about certain topics, I know that people look up to you as a mentor. But who is your mentor?
Actually, I have always struggled with finding a mentor. It was really hard, and it is still hard because I find it hard because I haven't been able to reach anyone who has worked in media, to the extent that I've worked in media, or worked in communications, I guess you would say, because I'm not just a publisher, but I'm also a PR strategist. And so I used to kind of struggle with that. I would kind of find like people leeway, but what I've started doing is, that's why I've been taking more coaching courses or like working with more coaches. But as far as having a mentor, I haven't just been able to solidify that. And I also say, because of my instability in the past, it really made me hard to show up for people, and so that right there alone was kind of a turn off. And I understood that, it was something that I had to accept. So I'm still actually open to finding a good mentor.
Okay. So we talked about 10 years ago, you getting started. How has media changed, in your opinion, over the last 10, 11 years?
It's definitely so much faster. It's faster. And then just as I'm looking at it now, and I'm still like, I'm always studying and learning stuff, because up until now, I had been self-taught. Like, I'm a mass comm major. So PR, I went to school for PR, but working in media, running the magazine, all of that, I never worked for anyone else is at an outlet. So all of that is just me, just trial and error and YouTube or whatever else I find online. But up until now, I'm actually enrolled in 2 journalism. I'm in a entrepreneurial journalism, I guess you say, class. And then I just finished a class with CUNY, School of Journalism. So I'm trying to say I'm learning more there and kind of seeing how things have changed. But what I realized is that oftentimes, whereas I was thinking, oh, everybody's writing different stuff. And then I started learning, like, not everybody's writing different stuff. What I try to do with SwagHer magazine is make sure that we're not writing on the same thing that 10 other outlets have already wrote on. Occasionally that may happen if it's big enough. But I think that it's like, with the way people are producing such fast news, then everybody is kind of writing about the same thing. And like I said, the stories are coming out a lot faster. Shade Room came in and took over everything pretty much,
Right.
It's like the number one news outlet within the Black community is kind of crazy. But just in how they did things is different, so they've kind of changed, not having as much shade, but just looking at how they came in and just took over. And then, everything else, we're still trying to catch up with them. Or if we're trying to catch up with Essence and just how they have changed over the years as they've changed ownership and just how they do things differently. But I would have to say, it's just like, then there's so many other new outlets, a new outlet pop up almost every day now. So, it's a lot harder to grab people's attention. And I think over time, as we're so used to social media, how they say, I forgot what they call it, maybe the scrolling generation or something like that, all we do is scroll. And so it's hard. That makes it even harder to capture a reader's attention because there's so much out there that's trying to divert it. So you really have to, make certain that your content is up to par, and also know who your target audience is so that you're reaching them and that you're actually providing them with things that interest them.
That's good. I mean, you said so much goodness inside that piece there, because at the end of the day, when people think about it, when COVID hit, everything shut down. So people had nothing to do but look at a lot of content. Now that things are opening back up, people have started, popping and moving and going. So now, whereas people would be sitting down looking at a whole video, now you're going back to see that it's now more replays versus, people actually showing up live because the
Right.
world has kind of opened up a little bit more. So it does cause you, and I laugh when you said the shade room because my daughter's always like, "Did you see the shade room?" And I'm like, "Who was that?"
Mine
She's like,
too.
"Mama, I told you to look at the shade room." And I'm
She'll
just
be
like,
like, mine does the same thing. She's 17 and she'll be like, well, if you didn't catch it now, you're gonna have to go back 20 posts, like, and that's really
right.
how it be. How it
Exactly.
be.
I'm like, girl, I don't have time to be scrolling through all that. What happened? Give it to me in a nutshell. So you're absolutely right, baby. I don't know who they got over there, but baby, they are popping it out as soon. It's like as soon as it happens, somebody got it on speed dial. Like, I just want to let y'all know this is what went down so they can have it. So it does speak to the speed of information transfer, the speed of, different people outlets opening up. So out of the things that you do, and earlier you did speak to, your favorite thing really is the creative space of it. But with the being a publicist and the PR things that you do, with having the magazine, with the podcast, with all of the things, what is your favorite amongst all of that?
um actually, I think what I enjoy most, and I think some people might, especially Jarmel, might be shocked, but I love it when we get our clients placement, like, and just being able to say, hey, we got you here. You know what I mean? Like, that is just an awesome thing to me. Because it requires work, it requires relationship building. Sometimes it requires some promising or some paying or something, I don't know, but we worked this so that we got you there. And I think that that's oftentimes like the most rewarding thing to me. But I will say, I do enjoy speaking. I don't really publicly speak as much as I like to, but that is like a passion of mine as well. So I don't know. That's not really something I don't say I'm a speaker, but when I get those opportunities, I really embrace those. Although I used to be really terrified, but the more I'm growing into myself, the more comfortable I'm getting to be with those engagements.
Okay, come on, Jarmel. Listen, that's a incentive to go on out there and book fancy for everything that you can find. Because listen,
Right.
he does be. When I tell you, so I just want to do a plug because I am a client of SwagHer, and so in this magazine issue here, boom, there you go. So just to let y'all know, connect with SwagHer because they will get you placed. They will give you exposure, the visibility, the credibility that you need to position yourself for profitability. And so when you are trying to make a name for yourself, you got to connect with people who are out here working just as hard for you as you're trying to do for yourself. And I can honestly say, in knowing you, Francheska and Jarmel, I laugh at Jarmel because I'm like, do you ever sleep? Because every time I'm sending a message, it's like, boom, he's right on it. And I'm like,
Everybody say that.
girl? I'm like, when do you go to bed? So to know that you have somebody who is on behind the scenes making it happen, He's like, hey, Queen, I got something for you. You good? And I'm just like, it has actually really changed the trajectory of where I want to go with my business and my brand. It has positioned me, with some amazing people that I never would have known before, and now I can connect. I saw Nadia was on here earlier, and Jarmel set me up with her, and we got together, and I'm doing a Sister Leaders Conference, and so I was on her Clubhouse Thursday night, and then also, we did an interview on her platform. So it's just amazing now that you make the connections. Now you get to see people and you're starting to get in similar circles. So I shout out you guys for the hard work that you all do for your clients because it really is an amazing investment and y'all actually do what you say you're going to do. So you have done a phenomenal job at that. So we're about to wrap up. I see they have they have been into it. They have enjoyed your responses. And so Francheska, what do you want to leave the audience with?
The one thing I forgot to tell you earlier,
Okay.
which is the season 2 of Theories and Thoughts Deep Dive is premiering November the 4th, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken, it's November the 4th.
Okay.
We're finishing up the production of it. We just got our intro and our trailer bag. So we'll be sharing that soon. But I'm really excited about this season because what we decided to do is, of course, we love dealing with Black businesses. So we visited a few Black businesses in Dallas.
Okay.
And as we say, we got into their businesses and, we sat with them and just kind of went through there a little bit about their day to day. But
Mhm.
also, Anya and I discussed like some deep topics. Like we ended up, though we had a topic in mind, but
Mhm.
the conversation ended up leading us elsewhere, and it was kind of crazy
Right.
because the cameraman was like, man, that was so good. I really felt y'all with that one. You know what I mean? So it was like
Right.
really, yeah. So I'm like, okay, if he was into it, then I know we got some good topics. So we're actually talking family dynamics, is it women empowerment and feminism, and then dating over 35. So
Okay.
it's a total of 6 episodes, and they're going to be premiering on the What's Your Superpower channel, which is on the Exposure TV network. So you can access the Exposure TV network via Roku, Apple TV, Fire Stick, Google TV, or whatever it is, basically
Mhm.
anywhere you can get an app, you can do it, as well as even on your phone. So just download the Exposure TV app, and then you'll have access to it. And it's a free app. So that's one thing too. And it's a really positive network, so
Yeah.
it's clean and it's stuff content that you can even show your kids.
Awesome. Well, listen, thank you so much for being here, for sharing what's going on in the world of SwagHer. Can you please tell everybody? I've got it scrolling on the bottom as far as the website, but do you have any other ways that people can connect with you?
Well, the website is best, which is swagger.net. And it does, like, once you visit it, don't be afraid once it changes to Swagger Online, because we did have to move our whole website earlier this year. Of course, you can find us on Instagram at SwagHer Magazine. And then our Facebook page is SwagHer. And all of my social media is Fancy Swagger, FANCYSWAGHER. And we also are on Clubhouse. We do have a club. We haven't been using it as much, but I'm trying to put it into use. So I'm trying to think of some angles that we could work there. But if you do have a minute to go and join the club, we would appreciate that.
Awesome, awesome. Well, listen, y'all heard it here. Make sure you tap in Theories and Thoughts Deep Dive. Get on SwagHer. Follow them on social media. Follow Francheska at you say Fancy SwagHer, right?
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
Okay, so make sure you follow her to know what's going on. Listen, if you are looking for some great information, some positive Black imagery, some the being in the know of different people who are out here in Black businesses and supporting the culture. This is the magazine that you need to tap into. This is the lady that you need to be following. They're out here doing amazing things. Thank you again so much for being on the iShine podcast. I truly, truly appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Angela, for having me. I wish you all the best, and thank you for being a client, and also thank you for just talking about sharing your experience with us and giving us that feedback. I greatly appreciate that.
Absolutely. Well, listen, this is a Saturday, so you guys go out, enjoy the rest of the day. Make sure you tag somebody on this broadcast who needs to hear this information, because it is going to change the trajectory of their business. So make sure you have them tap in. Until then, we will see you guys next week. Have a great one.